In addition to, obviously, the president, the vice president, and leaders from both parties, there were also a few celebrities in attendance at today's inauguration. Let's bring in ABC News contributor and Sirius XM radio host Mike Muse for more on that part of the story. Mike, Lady Gaga, Jennifer Lopez, Garth Brooks, they all performed today and they hit it out of the park. But based on my Twitter feed, the big star of the day was Amanda Gorman. What did you think of the day's performances?
I think Amanda was absolutely fantastic. I loved everything that she said. My most memorable inauguration was when Maya Angelou was a poet for President Bill Clinton, and I still remember her poem to this day. It was ripe and rife with beautiful metaphors and allegories, and I think Amanda's poetry took on a different lens today. It really took on this lens of unity was her theme. It was beautifully written in great metaphors, but it was so relatable to the average person who may not do deep dives into poetry could relate. And through her language, she really captured the language of what so many Americans were feeling on this day. This day was full of tension. This day was full of anticipation. This day was full of anxiety. And the language that she created was what all of us needed to hear. And in particular, as we began to bring these two worlds together. And I loved, there was a line in her poetry where she said, you know, we're steeped in the past, right? And so really talking about the past and how the past can inform us moving forward. And so I thought she captured it beautifully. She looked fantastic, and my DMs are blowing up. Really something special with black girls watching the television. One of my followers said, he just had to send it to me. He said, my daughter, who literally was sitting there in braids, similar to Amanda, was watching the screen, and he said she stopped. And that was the first time she had stopped all day. So the power of that, and the power of just representation, Vice President Kamala Harris, and what that means to young girls across the country and across the world. And it symbolizes what is possible. But there's something special about when a young black girl can start writing at such an early age. And we're going to focus on K through 12 now. Now that Dr. Joe Biden is in office, education is going to be the tenement of who we are as an American people. So the fact that we can now see this young black poet laureate, you know, now showing young girls the power of the pen, the power of writing, the power of journalism, and how it can literally heal a nation. And I think that is what she did. And then you saw the symbolism of the celebrities that were there. And I know we want to talk about the entertainment portion, but First Lady Michelle Obama, I mean, she looked incredible. And to see Twitter and social media blow up with this exuberance, this celebration, it reminded me of like celebration of a good time, right? When America felt good, when democracy felt good. I know one of your guests earlier, Diana, said that she wants to get back to boring policy, but I don't think it's anything going to be boring yet, because we're still in just an excitement of what our democracy means. So then you had J-Lo perform, and yes, it was about the performance, but the moment when J-Lo began to speak Spanish, I really can't recall an inauguration where you had Spanish spoken so poignantly when people were paying attention. And again, representation, as particular as President Biden, I have to get used to saying that myself, has began to sign executive orders, and we know immigration is going to be at the forefront of what he's thinking about in terms of policy. So that was just such a great complimentary. It's almost like it was a curatorial moment that the inauguration committee did with having J-Lo have that moment of speaking in Spanish as President Biden begins to sign executive orders around immigration. And then you had Lady Gaga perform. And Lady Gaga kind of represents this eccentricness of like the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, if you will, right? So you saw all these forefronts coming together, but then you saw Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks represents country music. And sometimes you think, Diane, rural when you think about country music. But what people don't realize is what brought Georgia blue was the rural black South. And when you think about the rural black South, you have to think country music. Country music was birthed through the black rural South, down in the delta of the Mississippi. So you saw so many origin stories of anthropology of music, of culture, of history, all coming together. So what Garth Brooks was doing, and didn't even realize he was doing it, was bringing together rural white, that's what we think, but really rural is also black, coming together for unity. So the medley of all those performers and Amanda's words so brilliantly brought the whole inauguration home.
And I want to follow up on the Garth Brooks element of it, because you're talking about, Biden voters from the South, but we heard our own Eva Pilgrim and Deborah Roberts reporting on how Trump voters from the South were telling them that seeing Garth Brooks perform was really impactful for them and made them feel that Biden was clearly reaching out to and including rural Americans in today's celebration.
Absolutely, but that's the power of music. The power of music is universal, right? But the power of music, and as you know, that's my specialty, is using music and pulling back the social and political constructs of that. So here you have the unity of Garth Brooks and country music, but yet you have the white rural Trump supporters embracing and being excited to watch and listen to Garth Brooks. At the same time with Garth Brooks, that's an ode to the black rural South too as well in terms of the history and the origins. So you have two different identity groups, if you will, talking about identity politics, two different identity groups coming together underneath one cause of unity, which is what Amanda was talking about in her speech, was a theme throughout the entire inauguration, but it's through the lens of music. Music was able to bring that healing that we're looking for, and I think healing needs to be accountable. So we need to make sure that people are held accountable for the atrocities that was done to our Capitol on January the 6th, but music is a part of that, and bringing these two worlds together in ways that they didn't realize it. And I think that was the power of today in Garth Brooks and Amanda and of J-Lo and of Lady Gaga.
And Vice President Kamala Harris, of course, made history today as the first woman, the first black American, the first Asian American vice president. From a cultural perspective, what do those milestones represent?
It represents so much. As a member myself, was part of the D9, which, we in the black culture community call the Divine Nine, which is historically black fraternities and sororities. She's a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, which is what my sister is a member of and thousands of friends are members of. And I'm a member of the fraternity Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. And usually we're paired together, pretty girls, pretty boys. That's kind of the joke amongst the black cultural community. So to see an AKA be in the White House, to be the first female. The AKAs went first. They were founded in 1908. They were the first black sorority that was founded in our nation at Howard University, which we saw the band performing. She brought her whole self to the inauguration today. So not only was she standing up for the Divine Nine, for black Greek organizations and what that means to our country and what black Greek leaders have meant to the civil rights movement, all the way from Dr. Martin Luther King who gave us Senator Warnock today, who is the preacher of Ebenezer Baptist Church of Atlanta, the home church of Martin Luther King, who was also a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Then you saw Senator Kamala Harris bring in the HBCU marching of Howard University, really bringing in culture and bringing blackness into the fullness. There's often sometimes that, black American, black identity is kind of sometimes seen as other. But what she did is she brought the power of the White House, the power of historic victory, and brought them and us into the forefront and made it. We didn't need any validity. I want to be very clear. But what she did was she put it on display for the rest of America to say, this is something special. This is unique. This is powerfully embedded in our society, in our culture. It needs to be protected. It needs to be sustained. And it needs to be uplifted. And it needs to be given the weight of any great institution academically here in the country. And to be of South Asian descent, this is the first time that we have seen this. And so what it's doing is allowing Americans to learn about the culture. It's allowing the Americans to learn about their heritage. And so what's important to that is she's bringing all that with her into the vice presidency. She's bringing all that identity. She's bringing all that culture into the Oval Office. So when she's in that situation room, when her and President Biden are having those difficult conversations, she's going to bring her lived experience of an HBCU, of a Divine Nine, AKA, shout out to Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, all the lived experience of an HBCU, all the experience of her South Asian heritage into that room to make decisions. That's what diversity really means. And D&I is this term that we use too loosely, right? But that is what it means to be inclusive and be diverse. It's diverse ideology of experiences, but also too, because we get it confused sometimes, it's about representation. How do you show up? How are you appearing, right? her just being in the room, just those photos are going to go around the world and see a black woman and a South Asian woman being great and sitting at the pinnacle of American democracy. That is the importance of it. I cannot wait to see the policies that will be informed because of who she is.
All right. Mike Muse, always great to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.